In 1942, the government required a location with a seaport, airfield, and railroad to assemble materials for our fighting forces. Mobile had all three, so that is how Brooklyn Field got started. After the runway was finished and the docks were built and the tracks were laid, it was time to send in the airmen, of whom my father, Sylvester Fourreau, was one of them. He was a tech sergeant with a high school education and typing skills, so they put him in charge of the hospital. He took on many jobs because it was hard to find enough manpower. He would treat minor injuries, give out medicine, help deliver a baby, and cook in the mess hall. Cooking was what the other airmen loved. With my father being a Cajun from Louisiana and having to cook for his family after his mother's death, it was his forte. Every day was a 12-hour shift, and sometimes it would extend to a 24-hour day with no sleep. He was 25 at the time, but it was a time he had to do his part, so he kept up the work until the other people started to come to Brooklyn to help build the base. Finally, the help arrived and gave my father a chance to unwind after a trying day. He and the other airman would go out the back gate on Washington Avenue and go to the Roosevelt Theater to take in a movie. This is where the love story begins. My mother, Eleanor Jean Brewster, was working at the Roosevelt Theater with a young lady who was beyond her age, having lied about her age. She was just 16. She was very mature, very religious, pretty, and a thoughtful person. Many times the airmen would ask her out, but she would let them down with a kind word and a smile. This went on for about 6 months until one fateful night when a handsome tech sergeant showed up and asked what time the next feature started. My mother looked up, and when their eyes met, she had to catch her breath. After a brief moment, she caught her breath and told him what he wanted to know. He got his ticket and, when inside the theater, he looked back at my mother, looking back at him. Every day, my father would return to the theater, asking the same question, knowing by now the start time of each feature. Most of the time, he would see the same movie 3 times in a row. I'm fairly sure my mother was starting to see through his motives. After many weeks of the same actions, she finally came up after the feature had started, and there was no line. He came up, looked her in the eyes, and asked if she would go on a date with him. My mother told me that when she said, "I can't," my father had the most worrisome look on his face. So she explained that she was just 16 and could not date yet. She said my father looked like a whipped puppy and didn't say a word. The next day, she waited for him to show up, but he didn't. Her heart was broken that day, to the point where she was on the verge of quitting her job. After 2 days, he showed up late again and asked if he could walk her home and meet her parents. She agreed without hesitation, but added that she needed to ask her parents first. My mother said, "He got the biggest grin on his face and ran down Washington Avenue in the dark. After a few seconds, I could hear a big yahoo." My mother went home that night and told her parents the story of how she met my father, asking if he could walk her home. My grandfather, being old school, said, "No, right off." This went on for about 2 weeks, with my father not giving up and my grandfather saying no. I guess persistence pays off because after 3.5 weeks, he finally said, "Okay." My mother was overjoyed, and when my father asked for the 100th time and she said yes, it made his day. After the first walk home, my grandparents said they fell in love with him. He was so courteous, kind, and had a cute French accent. My father couldn't take her out after walking her home, but he could sit on the bench, swing on the front porch, and talk, while the window shades were open and 4 sets of eyes were watching every move. After many front porch swing dates and my grandparents watching from the living room, my father could not stand it anymore and placed a gentle kiss on my mother's lips. Later, my grandmother told me that when my grandfather started to say something, she got his attention, placed her finger to her lips, and shook her head no. 4 months later, my father asked my mother to marry him, but because of their age, he had to get permission from my grandparents. They were married at the chapel on Brooklyn Air Base with family and almost all the airmen and nurses at the hospital on July 5, 1942. In 1943, on my parents' first anniversary, I came into this world. I grew up in a loving home with my 2 sisters and my brother. My parents' love story endured throughout 50 years of marriage. I can remember when my father passed, my mother sobbing on my shoulder and saying, "I loved your dad so much." And I also remember while out fishing one day with my father, him saying, "Eleanor is a pain sometimes, but she has always been the love of my life, and I can stand the pain." To love someone so deeply and receive love in return is a once-in-a-lifetime feeling that only a few will ever experience. This video is a SCO's Media production. Be sure to like and subscribe to SCO's Media YouTube channel for more videos of this type.